Hello everyone, ready for another exciting installment here. Before we put this in the motor, there was something I forgot to tell you last time because I was somewhat, what shall we say, agitated. It's to do with the selector forks. So I'm going to zoom you into these and tell you something rather important. Right, now unlike some gearboxes, these are actually identical in size and shape. Sometimes, you'll find that maybe one arm doesn't come out as far, things like that. But these are identical like that, and it's easy enough to get them mixed up if you don't remember something rather important. As I say, the one for the main shaft, which is the top one, is turned down here. There's a relief. See, that one just goes along the same. Well, it's a slope, but it's just the original casting. This one is turned down a little way to make the diameter smaller. If you don't put that one on the main shaft, which is the top one, what you'll find is when you're sliding into fourth gear, it'll bind up. Everything will work fine until you put it into fourth gear, and then nothing will turn. So it does tell you in the manual, and it says it's very important, which it is. So just remember that when you're putting them back on. This one with the turned piece on is the main shaft one. Alright, on we go. Now hopefully you'll be able to see all this and I won't keep getting in the way. So first thing we're going to put on is the worm drive for the oil pump. There's a spacing piece that goes in first, and you'll notice that the front is tapered. That goes to the outside. So that goes on. Then the worm drive goes on, and here you'll notice there's a little cutout. That's for the woodruff key. So that's got to go to the outside. Now this is a tight fit on here. So what we're going to do is use a little piece of tube to help us tap it on. And as you're tapping it on, of course, you're going to want it to line up with the keyway in the crankshaft. So I'll just keep checking that. There we go. And I don't know if you can see that, but that lines up. Now the end of the woodruff key sort of fits into the worm drive to lock it on there. Right, the next thing we're going to put on is the oil pump itself. So we will put some grease on where the gasket is going to go. I have noticed with the gaskets here I get in the States that although they're very often got the holes in all the right places, they never take any dowels into account. And half the time, if they're 1/4 inch screws, they'll just have holes for 1/4 inches, and you'll have to cut out a couple of the holes. It's always that way with chain case gaskets. This one, apart from being really awkward, went on one dowel. Come on. And there it is round the other dowel. Good. Actually, this one's just the opposite look. It's actually being punched big enough to take a dowel on the third one where there isn't actually a... So there isn't a dowel up there. So make sure all faces are clean. Now this will just, as you'll see, it'll turn as we go on. And if need be, you can wangle the crank a little bit just to get it to... There we go. Alright, then there are 3 washers and 3 lock nuts, the nylock type. If you don't have the lock nuts, you're using just plain nuts, as it mentions in the manual, put some Loctite on. I had a chap bring me a 250 that he built for his wife because he couldn't get it started, or well, wouldn't start, wouldn't run properly, and it turned out he was really lucky that it wouldn't, because when I'd finished with it, as I mentioned, I always like to just kick the engine over and over until I get oil pumped round. Well, I kicked until I was blue in the face and there was still no oil going round. So I stripped the motor again, and I actually found that on the vertical worm here, there was no teeth on one side. Where they'd gone, why they'd stripped, I don't know, but they were gone completely. So the main worm on the crankshaft was just happily spinning and not turning the oil pump. So of course, if he'd managed to get it to run properly, his wife would have set off for a trip and wouldn't have got very far, and then it would have been a big bill. Okay, let me just cross in front of you because I need to get the torque wrench out and the 7/16 socket, and we're going to take these up to, I think it's 7 pounds. It's pretty low. If you hear any, well, I don't think you'll hear any sirens now in the background, but when I got home from running an errand this morning, there was ambulances and all sorts of things. Some chap outside had apparently fallen asleep at the wheel and gone down into there's quite a deep ditch on either side of the road here. He'd gone down into the ditch in a pickup had gone end over end, but he reckoned he was alright. Didn't want any medical assistance, which may simply mean, to be quite honest, in the States, that he couldn't afford it. Go. Let's warm up to torque. Alright. So there we've got that on nicely. And the pump turns. Everything is good there. Let me just slide that off so I can. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is put the key in. And, lashed out for this engine and bought all new everything. So there's the Woodruff key to go in. This was the one that was awkward to get out, wasn't it? And it's awkward to go in. Very awkward. In fact, I'd even say that wasn't the right. Ooh, that's a very, very tight fit. So what I'm going to do is switch you off a moment, and I'm just going to face this on a little bit of emery paper to get it to fit. Alright, here we are back again. I barely rubbed it on some emery just on a flat surface. And I just tried it a second ago and oh, there we go. Get the old knocking stick. There it goes. So the next thing is to put the actual crankshaft pinion on, which has a timing mark on it. Now you'll see I put a little bit of paint on, because in their wisdom the timing mark isn't on the tooth, it's on the valley, and of course when you put your lock washer on you can barely see it. So I always like to just put a little blob of paint on. The keys jumped up a little. Alright, let's just tap that key back down again, hopefully. Or else we're going to have to get a puller out. Okay. No, it doesn't like it at all. As I keep mentioning, you're seeing all the problems. Always amazes me, you watch some channels and everything goes together so perfectly. I've got a feeling they do a lot of stuff off camera. Almost come off with finger pressure, but 16mm. So this Woodruff key is insisting on being a bugger altogether. Let's take it out. Easier said than done. I was advised to use a pair of cutters to pull these out rather than pliers, so let's try that. Told they would grip better. Unless I'm using the wrong sort of cutters. This has been an absolute bugger, isn't it? Let's see if that will go on now. Slide the key up into its shaft properly. Yeah, I can't. With it being tight, you can't just push it on and... Okay. God. No, that's not lining up straight with the key wheel. Something's happening. Oh, there's a little burr in there, just inside. I don't know what that's from, but let me go and, you won't be able to see it I don't think, but just there's a tiny little burr. Let me just go and file that off and see if it'll go on better. Right, I think I might well have put that little burr on there by not lining this up right. So, what we're going to do is see if we can give ourselves a help. By putting a mark on to show us where the keyway is, so that when we put this on, hopefully covers everything over as soon as you put it on. Okay, now be a good boy. There's people watching here. Saying that, did I remember to switch this on? Yes, I did. As we know, we've had that problem once before. There it goes. Goes on now like it was never a problem. Alright. Ho 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 ho. Lock washer. Now the lock washer is the type with the little tab on the inside to go into the keyway. Except of course they sent me one the wrong size. Oh God. That's why I've given up doing repairs. This is such a complete pain. Look at that. Alright. Well, we'll take another break while I just open that out a little bit. to get it to fit on there. This is turning into one of those jobs where when I came in this morning I thought to myself, okay, I'll just do this and then do that and then do the other, and of course nothing of the sort. Anyway, it goes on now. Didn't even take much filing. You can put a comment on this about that if you like, because I'm interested to know if you have that sort of problem in the UK with the parts there. Although I think most of the parts I get come from the UK, so you probably do. Oh, come on. Everything's been a nuisance today, isn't it? Look. Now the nut doesn't want to go on. That thread looks perfect. You're getting to see a lot of standing about doing nothing today, aren't you? I need a rod to put through there. You're getting to see a lot of walking about today, aren't you? Okay, we'll put a rod in here to put that on there. Okay. I'll be a good boy. There we go. And of course that lock washer is moving about. Sure, my arm's in the way, but can't be helped. Now we're going to torque this up to 50 to 55 foot-pounds. You watch, I'll probably jam my fingernail under this in a minute. I'm trying to hold this lock washer so the little tab doesn't move, because that wasn't that big either. All in all, it was a pretty cool lock washer. Anyway. There we go. Tab over. God. Everything is being a complete pain in the bum today. Pliers have disappeared. Everything we could possibly want to use has gone walkabout. See if we can get enough pressure on this. Now, God almighty. It's enough to make you want to give up. I think we managed to get that so we can maybe get in behind it now. Listen, you. There we go. So you can't get the hammerhead in, you've got to use something to... Oh dear, oh dear. It's just at that point in the balance where the crank wants to spin. Okay. This is going to be the longest video doing virtually nothing that you'll ever get a chance to watch. Could do with something flatter. No, you're not going to thump it with one of your parallels. I'm off again. I'm back again. There it goes. Right. There we are. Alright. Now before I forget, let's squirt a bit of oil in there. Alright, time for lunch. Let's take a break and then we'll put the gearbox in. So, 2 hot dogs and a cup of tea later. Now we're going to put in the tappets, cam followers, whatever you want to call them, and the camshaft itself. Now, I know you're not going to be able to see this on here, but on the earlier ones there are 2 timing marks on this. There's a V and there's a dash, and if it's one of these early ones you put it on the V. Okay, put these in. You'll notice we marked these so I know which is which. You'll notice the front end is thinner than the back end, so this thin end goes to the front. Let's put a dab of oil on that. Make sure that's the exhaust one, which is the inner one. To there. And again get the thinner bit to the front. Like thus. Then we get our little V. Let's put some oil on this bush here. Get our little V. There it is. And put that. Where is it? V. Into that slot. Oops, we've moved around one. And there we go. They're not very easy to see, these marks. They're not exactly stamped in deeply. But there we go. Right, so next thing is to put the gearbox in. And the first thing to do there is to put some oil in the bearing at the back of the gearbox. A little bit in that needle bearing there. And the first thing we put in is this. And this is a sort of tightish fit, generally you need to bump it in a little bit, just with there it goes. Fine. Now let's make sure the face here is nice and dry and free of oil. And then we'll put on again. There's no gasket here, so we'll use some non-setting gasket stuff. Just a smear, you don't need a lot. Now obviously you don't need anything on that because that doesn't even go all the way around, so any gear oil in here, any oil in here is going to go down into there anyway. Plus, as you'll see in a moment, we're going to put an O-ring on because the actual feed to the end of the crank is in there, and the last thing you want is to get some of this. That hole there, where are we, is the oil feed. It's coming up from the pump, goes to the pressure relief valve and comes out through here, up this case, in behind the oil seal and through there. So the earlier ones you had to put, well, you didn't have to put some on, but it was nice to put the tiniest smear right around the outer edge, making sure it didn't get anywhere near that hole. But there were just two flat faces then. Now what we have is it's machined out to take a small O-ring, which hopefully is in the little bag of O-rings and things, but as they don't always put them in, I buy them separately. Nope, don't like that one. Again, weird, but the ones you buy individually are a thicker O-ring. So, there we go. So we'll oil the O-ring the end of the crank. We'll oil that bush and the O-ring that the camshaft pokes through. And that goes in there like this. Slides on. Camshaft goes on. Generally you have to just get the gears to mesh. There it goes. And then the last little bit is the detente spring. So you've got to hold it on or it just pops off. Oops, that one didn't seem very long. There's 4. There we go. Them up. Yeah, let's see, there's 2 more here, the same length, 1.5 inches I think, or something like that. And don't forget with an Allen bolt and a T-handled driver like this, you can put a lot more pressure on than you can with a Phillips head, and it's easy to overdo it. And don't forget the 2 small ones that went down the bottom. Put it in. That one, you might have noticed I put a little clip, hose clip on there, just because that could, same as with this, that can go in and out, so it just holds it in place while you're manhandling things. Goes there. That one goes in there. The last one to go in, we could actually take that off now, is the one that's the little tip thing there for the kickstart spring to fasten onto. And that's a weird size, I know it's 11/32 I think, or something like that if memory serves me right. Yes. There we go. Okay, so shafts are spinning nicely. Crank is still moving nicely. There we go. So the last thing we have to put on this side is the kickstart escapement mechanism. So for that, there is a bushing, then that, there's a spring that goes, how does it go on the inside or the outside? Spring that goes on there, and that's it. And that. Then there is a little lock washer for that. Oh, it is on the floor. There, like that. Goes on, I'll tighten that on in a minute. And we'll check our gear change mechanism and everything. Take our clip off there. Kickstart spring. Goes on there. Around and goes on there. A lot easier than some, that's for sure. Just make sure that's gone right into that little. Now the last thing that will go on this side is of course the outer cover, but I always leave this until I've done the clutch because of the clutch operating mechanism. On the earlier ones it was the internal one with a little arm going across and the cable there like tag cubs, but then the later ones they put this method on, which is an arm on the top, the cable comes through this hole here, and then the arm there works this gear which pushes out this part here, which has a little 3/16 ball bearing in it. Well, you've got to get the arm just right. It wants to be, as you're looking at it, if you were looking at it from the top of the bike, round about sort of 1 o'clock. Well, if you put it on now, you never know exactly, you know, where this is going to be. So I always like to get the clutch rod in and the clutch on the other side, and then I dry fit it a couple of times, and when I know it's right, I can take it off, put some sealant on and finish that all off. I did a little experiment with this cover, which I'll show you, and because it was an experiment I didn't film it. But seeing as there's nothing going to go in here because we're going to have PVL ignition on the other side, I didn't see the point in screwing on that cover and having a gasket and all the rest of it. So I blanked it off. What I did was I cut a piece of 1/4 inch alloy, put it in, chamfered the edges, welded it up and then formed it all in. So I think that looks nicer. So we'll leave this for now. There's a bush in here for that. And one thing you often find with older bikes is the edge of where the cotter pin goes to the kickstart, the recess for that, for some reason always gets, I guess it's the cotter pin moving on it, gets really gnarled up. And often you'll find that you can't get that on, and all it is just a rough edge to that. So if you just take a file and make sure that part is smooth, that's fine. Then we'll be putting an oil seal in here also. So let's put this to one side, and next thing is going to be to go over and put the clutch on.